Let's go.
Welcome to Citizen. We got a special guest today, a Drinking Bros alum, Max Martini, actor, and you do a lot of stuff, but you've been in so many fucking movies. Holy shit.
Yeah,
do you keep count of how many things you've been in?
I stopped. Some of them I'd like to forget about, but yeah, no, I've gotten around, man. Thankfully, I've been lucky.
And you've been in as many military movies as anybody I know. Was Saving Private Ryan the first one? Certainly the first big one. But
it was the first big one. It was my first big one was Contact. Was a movie called Contact.
Yeah, the first big movie, but I mean like military.
But
movie,
first military film was Saving Private Ryan, and big. I mean, blow your mind big. I was so proud to be part of it, and it really ended up shaping who I've become today. Oddly,
what do you mean?
It was an impactful film for me.
Like just like understanding because that Omaha Beach scene. Every time I watch it, or every time I used to play it in video games, right?
Yeah.
Like World War II video games. I'm like, how the fuck did we win this war? It's crazy, right?
I would say that when I started that film, when I got that film, I was in my 20s. I was in my early 20s. I really didn't have an understanding of much of that, really that war, So I learned a lot being part of that film, but also like the necessity of war or the presence of a military or the threat of war and how that sort of, secures your freedom and so one story that I love to tell about Saving Private Ryan is that when we had the premiere, Spielberg invited all these vets from that, from that era. And I remember sitting in the theater when that opening scene came up, which I wasn't part of, so I was blown away by it. But I looked over and these guys were just,
weeping,
tears, weeping. And I remember thinking, wow, man. And there was an interesting article that came out after that movie opened talking about how that triggered a discussion, opened up a conversation amongst these veterans that had been sitting on that experience for so long.
Not exactly the most talkative generation, right? I mean, they kind of just ate it. They came back home and went to work and ate it.
100%.
You know what I mean? For fucking
100%.
50 years.
My grandfather, 100%. Yeah.
Until finally somebody did this and opened up the conversation a little bit. I mean, it's pretty wild. Between Saving Private Ryan and Band of Brothers, those two pieces of material kind of reopened the conversation. We always think and talk about that stuff, but I think it was mostly fixated on anti-Nazism, right? That was most media was based in that, like Indiana Jones, for example, right? It was mostly anti-Nazism, and then all of a sudden it turns back to the story of these just young men that decided we're not going to put up with this bullshit. You know what I mean? It isn't like I don't know. I mean, it's very interesting now to be in an all-volunteer army like I was, because everybody there is legit for the most part. I mean, there's turds in any group, but I was in the 82nd Airborne, so you have to get through a couple of things to get there in the first place. So we all know that everybody's pretty legit, but when there's a draft going on, it's a bit different. You know what I mean? Because you're getting kids that were planning on becoming dentists and things like that, and all of a sudden they're thrust into combat. It's not the best situation to be in, but yeah, it was interesting to see, because I was graduating high school when these pieces of material were coming out. But my family has always been in the military. My grandfather was in the Philippines. He jumped into Luzon, around the same time as the Great Raid. We'll talk about that. But it's a good point. I never really thought about it that way. It did open up the conversation for these old dudes who just
it kind of inspired me. I would say the unit. Working on the unit was really when I started getting involved with veteran charities, but it definitely it sparked an interest, and and you say that the military is voluntary, right? I mean, it's this is one of my things. It's like if we're going to recruit young men and women to enlist, then you really got to take care of them when they get home. You know what I mean? Like this was so that's kind of been a focus of mine for a while.
Yeah, we sort of dropped the ball on that. I mean, in the late 40s, early 50s, the GI Bill and the VA home loan a lot of people credit it for creating the middle class in this country, right? Because millions of dudes came back, became the first people in their family to ever go to college, and secured federally backed home loans and things like that. Now it was a bit exclusive, unfortunately, but then you move into it seems like there's some connection between the popularity of the war and how we take care of soldiers when they get home, as if they somehow decided the politics behind everything.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's a little fucked.
Right, and that is fucked.
Now we'll get so the unit is funny. When I was deployed, we watched that shit all the time. As a matter of fact, on our murder board, on our whiteboard up in the front of our talk, it said Tiffy is a whore on there for like 2 months.
That's amazing.
Yeah. But so the Great Raid is the next one. That's where you met Clayne back there.
Yeah.
Where was that shot?
So we shot that in Australia.
Okay.
We were there for 6 months.
Whoa, 6 months.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
Damn, that's I mean,
it's a lot.
It's probably cheaper than flying people back because you got to fly first class when it's that far away, right? If it's over 12
I mean,
hours.
once you're there, you stay.
Yeah.
It's it's one of the longer flights I've been on in my life. But no, we had fun. We had and again, that was another learning experience. I mean, I wasn't familiar. It's funny. It's like I've been very fortunate to be part of these historical films. So I learned a lot going along the way, including 13 Hours, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But there was information in that movie that I wasn't aware of. But yeah, the Cabanatuan Death March and just an incredible amount of history. Unfortunately, that movie got a little bit buried. It was at a point where I think Bush was up for re-election, and I think that they didn't want to assist in the process, so they let it go. But
that's dumb.
Yeah.
But that was, that is kind of a forgotten situation. Like my grandfather jumped into Luzon with the 11th Airborne, which ended up becoming, so the unit that jumped into Luzon, Philippines is now the Airborne School unit, right? So that's they run the Airborne School now. But yeah, it's kind of a forgotten, actually the Pacific Theater in general isn't really, like we all have the image of those Marines lifting the flag on, I think that was Iwo Jima, right? We have that image, which was, when you watch Flags of Our Fathers, it was kind of staged to get the picture. They did it, but then they had to do it again the next day or something. But yeah, it is kind of a forgotten part of it, which is interesting because that was the Nazis are brutal, but the Japanese they were going to fight to the last
vicious.
Man, dude.
Yeah.
Like it was no joke there.
Yeah.
It was like that was the closest we came to anything resembling suicide terrorism these days. Right?
Yeah.
Back in the day, people would surrender. You would be a POW and you'd get released at the end of the war.
Yeah.
Japanese didn't seem to have any interest in that sort of thing.
Yeah, we were given some books. I can't remember what they were initially when we started that film, but I remember reading into it, going, God Almighty, these guys are fucking not joking around.
That's pretty hardcore.
Yeah.
I mean, if you get caught, it's you just kill yourself, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty brutal. And then you did what was it like working on the unit? That was you were on there for several years, 5 years.
Yeah, the unit we did four seasons of it. The unit was great, man. I mean, that was it was a lot of fun because because it ran so long, first of all, but it was so big in the military and and my character popped. I was lucky. I mean, so I think also, the guy when we got there was based on Eric Haney's book Inside Delta Force.
The first sergeant major of the unit, yeah.
That's right.
Yep.
And the first thing that he said to us was like, look, I'm going to tell a lot of my own stories in the show, and we're not going to fuck it up, and we're not going to make a mockery of what's happening over there. And so he was dead set on everybody getting their tactics down, as well as we could, and putting in 150%. So, I'm a gun tactics fanatic. Like I love doing all that shit. So for me, it was 4 years of Disneyland, and
yeah, that's got to be fun.
Oh god, it was so much fun, man.
How was it? The cast is good. I mean, you got
cast was great.
There were some relative newcomers, like Michael Irby hadn't done much up until that point.
Yeah,
but Robert Patrick is a fucking legend.
Yeah.
Dennis Haysbert's a legend, right? I mean, so it was kind of a mixed group, I guess, in that regard. You had done multiple massive war movies at that point.
Yeah, leading into it.
So you had plenty of experience as well. But it did seem, and I think Scott Foley was like a sitcom guy before that,
Scott
right?
was a sitcom guy.
Actually,
yeah. I mean, he I don't think he had a lot of experience behind a weapon, but definitely Michael, seemed to be a natural. I'm actually doing a movie in Louisiana right now that he's in with me, so we get to reunite on screen together.
That's what it's being filmed now, or
yeah, we start production in about 2 weeks. It's like Alien 2 kind of military sci-fi deal. But yeah, super
he's just
fun.
Coming off. Mayans just wrapped. I think
he just wrapped that. Yeah,
that's 5 seasons on that. That's good too.
Yeah.
So what? Tell me more about this new one. Can you got
so
any details?
the new one is called Osiris.
Okay.
It's basically a team of I think they're actually contractors, sort of are encapsulated on this alien warcraft, and it's run down. They wake up and 30 years have passed, and they end up battling these aliens on this ship. But when they get off the ship, they find out that the Earth was attacked and that we lost, basically. So, but it's good, man, and they're dumping a lot of money into it. And
who's doing it?
So it's the same director that directed The Channel, which is the movie that Clayton and I starred in, and he's great. I mean, he's fantastic with action. This is a lot of action. It's a lot of gunfighting and
yeah, he is. I mean, we can talk about it now. The Channel. I watched it a couple of days ago. It's the middle, even up to the middle 2000s. Aside from your guys' show, the vast majority of anything that brushed up against the military, it still looked like dumbass 1980s stuff to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was like hip firing all the time.
Yeah.
Nobody in the film. Look, I watched Predator the other day because it was the anniversary of Predator. And, respect. But these are like elite special operators, and not one of them looked down their sights at any point during the entire movie.
Yeah,
you know
right.
I mean? So it's still a good movie, but these days you can't really get away with that stuff.
No, you can't. You can't anymore.
But the fight scenes in The Channel are really good.
Yeah.
And you can tell. I mean, just the way the people hold the weapons and stuff, you could tell somebody was standing around.
Well, dude, this is the thing with these, with these military films, is that you always do a boot camp, right? So there's generally a 2 week plus period of unfucking the actors, right?
Yeah.
And it was exactly what they say. We got to turn these actor wussies into real men, right? So if assuming you can do that in 2 weeks, so. But we do. But you get, these tech advisors that are former SEALs, that are former CAG guys at, MARSOC, that come in, that and they're determined to tweak which I love, but it makes a difference because when guys like you watch the film, it doesn't take you out of the movie. It takes me out of the movie when I see somebody.
It probably does at this point, right? If you see somebody all dicked up,
I can't watch it. Yeah.
I remember. What was it? It wasn't the last Rambo movie, but the one before that, where he shoots an arrow at a 155 round and it blows up the entire goddamn jungle.
Hilarious.
It's like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Let's at least put some kind of effort into this.
Yeah.
And some of these, so the early ones that you did, war stuff, more or less non-controversial, right?
Yeah. Probably 13 Hours was the most controversial.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah.
Right? And it's, I don't know. I know a lot of these guys. I know Tig and Tonto and shit, and Mark as well. It's like they have their feelings about certain individials in the U.S. government.
Strong feelings,
yeah. But even irrespective of that, the government. I don't think anybody can make the case that the government didn't fail those guys, right?
I don't think so. I mean,
right.
It's, you
you can pick who to blame about it, but there's blame certainly to.
Dude, I have a buddy that was a very high. I probably shouldn't say who. Anyway, but he basically told me that the minute that there was a call, he had a team of guys in the air out of Tripoli heading to Libya, and they were turned around midair. So, I don't know. I think there's still a lot of unanswered questions, as for, even, Mark and I talk all the time, and, I don't think he's gotten resolved yet, but definitely a story that needed to get out, and I think there was a lot of information. Like, for instance, I didn't know that there was a drone feed to Washington the entire time.
Yeah. They had ISR the whole time. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean that's something. Yeah.
Michael Bay's best movie.
You think so? Huh?
I think so.
That's the best one. I mean, look, the action scenes in that one are pretty fucking legit.
Yeah,
and it is. I wonder, as far as war movies go, which one has the most live action combat in one film? I'm sure somebody tracks that somewhere. The amount of minutes, because when the Battle of the Bastards in Game of Thrones released, they were like, yeah, this is the longest continuous fight scene in the history of television or something like that. I'm sure somebody tracks that, but I can't imagine.
The channel comes close.
It's got to, right? I
mean,
that
it's
pretty much
scene
just a
is
long
like,
gunfight.
I know.
There's like 4 scenes and then a gunfights, which is, that's what I like. To me, that's like eating a cheeseburger. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like maybe I shouldn't do this, but it's fucking fun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but I think 13 Hours comes close. I mean, there were a lot of there were some really long sequences in that film.
Yeah, and we do one of the sponsors of the show is actually Bub's Natural. I'm sure you're familiar with him. It's Glenn's charity.
Yeah.
And we've had Sean Lake was his roommate back in the day and his best friend, and he's come on the show a number of times and just told that story of how and it's something that comes through in almost every one of these war movies, and it is the proclivity for the best among us to put their own life aside and fucking sacrifice it sometimes for other people. Just I guess what modern America would call toxic masculinity, right? Like leveraging your aggression towards some kind of way to protect other people. It's kind of a vital part of our civilization. And I like you're in Hollywood. I wouldn't say you're a Hollywood guy, right?
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I'll take that.
How do you skirt that line, right? Because you make a lot of movies that have Hollywood people working on them, big budgets and things like that, but the subject matter is pretty. It's kind of counterintuitive to what Hollywood. If somebody was to win an award for the thing and go up and accept their award, they may say something completely different. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I try to stay apolitical. It's interesting because when we did a big press junket for 13 Hours in Miami, and the studio gave us talking points, which were I thought interesting, and it was all about honoring the men that fought, talking about their bravery, talking about what kind of a man it takes to walk into a fight, face a fight. So it was a lot. Look, I mean, I think that I think if you're going to represent that kind of a guy, a fighter, you have to a warrior, you have to embrace that, and embody it as much as you can. And, you know, at the end of the day, look, I think there's guys that have that inherently, you know, that are going to inevitably be called for these projects, you know, and you know, whether they've been in that kind of a firefight or in that kind of a, you know, that sort of that kind of danger or not, they have something that translates, you know, that's military guys like you respond to or whatever. But
well, we appreciate being represented in a way that's accurate. I'll tell you that. You know what I mean? It's there's lately there's more of it. SEAL Team does a good job as well.
Do they?
They have.
I can't watch it. Only because I was on the unit and SEAL Team hasn't called me for some reason.
Yeah, that is weird.
I'm like, how the fuck am I not on this show?
I don't know.
Like,
I'll fucking.
You know a guy?
Yeah, I might know a guy.
Okay.
We've had everybody from that show on.
Have you really?
I think, except for Boreanaz, he's busy. Playing beer pong up in fucking Syracuse or some shit, or doing, I don't know what he's doing, watching the Flyers get beat. But yeah, that is weird. You haven't been on that one.
Bizarre,
isn't it?
Yeah,
what the hell? Even Michael Irby was on for like
even
three
Irby was on.
episodes,
I know.
I think in season 2 or maybe. I think
I
season
must
2,
have pissed somebody off. I don't know.
And then you did this, and I think this is the reason you came on Drinking Bros last, to promote Sergeant Will Gardner.
That's right.
Yeah, in 2018 or something like that. I think it was.
Yeah.
Tell me about that movie for people in the audience that haven't seen it yet. What's the premise of that?
So it's called Sergeant Will Gardner, and I think you can still find it on Amazon or iTunes, whatever. But this is, look, man, if I die tomorrow, this is the one project that I take with me that I'm most proud of, because it was inspired by, you know, 2 trips to the Middle East and very quick story. I met this kid on a tarmac that was Ranger, I think, young guy, and he was like, "Holy fuck, you're on, you know, the unit, blah blah blah. It's my favorite show, dude." You know, and I was like, and we exchanged information. I gave him my number. I'm like, "Stay in touch, man," and you know, and so we stayed in touch. But he ended up surviving 2 or 3 bomb blasts and IEDs, and came back pretty banged up. And really spiraled downhill. And, you know, at that point, we had a lot of eyes and ears, you know, as a result of that show. So I was like, fuck, let me write something that, you know, can, you know, my intention was to give to charities. You know, it's very difficult to get to that kind of money, but I tried.
Right, yeah.
But you know, what I did do and what was successful is that I raised a ton of awareness for these charities that I support. Did raise some money. And you know, and got this guy, this one fucking dude, through so much, you know, turmoil, and he ended up fighting, and he ended up looking into, you know, he got in the cage, and you know, but he was having trouble. He was having sleep issues, anger issues. He couldn't hold a job. He fell homeless. You know, it was that story, and so. A lot of good came from that film. Now, that said, it was a lower budget film. We did it for like $2.5 million. You know, the flashback combat sequences needed a little more money, but I think the film is impactful. The main character that I play is that inspired by the guy I met on the tarmac, but I keep him heroic. He reclaims his life. He inspires others to reclaim theirs. You know, there's a solid message behind it, and there's a comedic through line so that it's digestible, so that it's not something that, you know, is hard to watch. Right?
Yeah.
So if you haven't seen it, check it out. It's I'm very proud of it.
And Gary Sinise is in that one too.
Gary Sinise is in it. Robert Patrick's in it.
Yeah, I think Gary Sinise has probably raised more money for veterans causes than any other human being on earth, to be honest.
He's as a human being, is one of the most. I mean, I don't know anybody like him, and I don't know anybody that does more for the military.
Yeah, I mean, for years, like he's. I remember when I got out of the military, he was doing this. This thing with Joseph A. Bank, where if you were a veteran, just email his assistant or some shit, and they send you a voucher, and you can walk into Joseph A. Bank and get a new suit. So you can go to job interviews and shit.
Yeah,
like who even thinks to do something like that? You know what I mean, Lieutenant Dan, I guess. But he's done. He's continues to do stuff. There's a couple of guys in Hollywood that are like that. He's one. You're one for sure. Robert Patrick's always been one. Although now he mostly just hangs out at his fucking Harley dealership now.
Yeah,
fucking. He loves it.
He and I are part of a motorcycle club that we've been members of for 17 years now, and we do a lot for veterans. Actually,
yeah. What's the club called?
It's called the Booze Fighters.
Booze Fighters,
yeah.
Okay.
It was established in 1946 by veterans.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. Tell me about this because I don't know anything about this.
It's an amazing organization, man. I mean, and it's not an outlaw club, but it's a three-patch club, and we're international, and like I said, we have a ton of veterans in this club, and we do a lot for veteran charities, and it's just Robert's a big biker. I'm a big biker. I've been on motorcycles since I was 15, and when we were shooting the unit, he said, "Hey, man, I was in a bar. I was on a trip, and I walked in this bar, and I saw these Booze Fighters, and I was like, oh my God," because I knew the history of the club, and so I sat down with them and said, "Hey, what would it take to get the original chapter back to Los Angeles, right?" And so Robert went through the process of getting this chapter back to LA, and which was not easy, and then came to me during the show and said, "Hey, do you want to be part of this thing?" And I was like, "I'm in 1,000%," and it's been it's like the military. It's a brotherhood, man.
Yeah.
You got guys that have your back for life.
Sure, yeah. I mean, that's one of the. Our buddy Rocco, Vince Barr, Rocco, right?
And from the Mayans.
Yeah. He's they had a story arc. I think it was in season 4 on the Mayans where he linked up with some of his buddies from back in the war, and kind of animated that as well. It's like it's hard to find that kind of brotherhood when you get back.
Yeah.
Unless you just it's also social media makes it easier to some degree, but it can be difficult to stay in contact with all the people. You know what I mean? So we do this thing. My friend Sarah Verardo, she runs the Independence Fund. They do a thing called Operation Resiliency, which is veterans whose units had a particularly rough time or are having a rough time after the fact, which is more common actually. They will pay for them to come back and do like a weekend retreat and reconnect with each other, do some therapeutic stuff, hang out and stuff like that. But it's hard to. There are resources.
So basically,
out there.
bringing the brothers back together.
Correct. Yeah. So they've done. I think they're doing like 20 or 30 a year or something like that.
That's
so it's
great.
a lot. I mean, it's good. But at some point, it's just like anything else. You have to teach a man to fish, right? Because you got to become. This is the thing I keep telling people. We're in this kind of victim mentality these days as a culture in the West, but nobody's coming to fucking save you, man.
No one's coming.
Like there's resources out there, but nobody's coming to save your ass. Whether you're a military veteran or a first responder or just somebody that had a rough childhood, nobody's coming to save you. You got to, at some point, you're gonna have to fucking do your own shit, right? Yeah. And it's.
But there are organizations that are doing amazing work. You're right, but they won't come find you, but they're there when you're ready. And
well, what you work with a number of these organizations, right?
So look, I mean, there's it took a long time to vet organizations and find 3 that I really believed in that were getting assistance to veterans and not didn't have huge overcosts and administrative, costs that were soaking up the money. So the 3 that I love are, one is Gary's foundation.
Just the Gary Sinise
Foundation. And so, for people that don't know, they go and buy houses and outfit houses for veterans with, that are missing limbs or, with any kind of disabilities, and doing amazing work. Warriors Heart Foundation out of Bandera, Texas, started by a CAG buddy of mine, and so they also assist first responders. you have to have a drug or alcohol dependency to get in, but once you're in the program, then they deal with TBIs and PTS, and it's
yeah. I mean, we've worked with them quite a bit, yeah.
Oh, in Black Rifle, I think had a thing for them.
Yeah, and they're really good too. The brothers Delta, whatever the fuck you want to call them down there. Their team does a good job of referring people as well. Like if you don't. We've had some people with traumatic brain injury issues that don't have the drug addiction issue that they've helped get. So there's a good brain clinic. Well, the big one used to be in Colorado. Now there's another one here up in Dallas, Fort Worth that a lot of people are going to, including The Undertaker and a bunch of buddies of ours that aren't military veterans. So it's open to a lot of people. But yeah, what's the third one?
And the third one is called Higher Ground USA. They're based out of Sun Valley, Idaho. And that's recreational therapy. So they'll get, I mean, veterans out, again, that are amputees that and get them on skis and snowboard. Just kind of show them that they don't have to give up that part of their life, right? They can still do stuff like that. It's great.
That's good. Yeah. I mean, it's one thing to become successful and I don't know. I've seen there's a lot of people, and I'm not trying to talk shit necessarily, but there's a lot of people who perform in the kind of films and television that you do that then will, one, not give back to that particular community. And then two, a lot of them denigrate the idea of like the Second Amendment and shit afterwards. Like you made your career in war movies.
Carrying guns.
Like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude?
Right.
Like, well, I'll just say it. Sean Penn's a cunt. You don't have to comment on that. I hate that guy. But it's like there's a lot of people out there that do stuff that brush up against our community and then benefit from it. And then, look, it's like a take a penny, leave a penny, dude. That's all it is. Yeah. If you come over here and siphon some of our fucking attention away, pay for it. That's it, right? And it's not literally pay for it.
But here's the thing that I think is inexcusable is that you've got, if you have people watching you, right? You can lead by example, right? So that's all you have to do. Lead by example. Lend your fucking time, right? Take a weekend, go be a celebrity at this charity event for veterans, so that it attracts people to come out. You take part in a few conversations. You get donors to donate money, and then you go home. It's like it doesn't take a lot, and it's. Look, it's there's different levels of getting your hands dirty, and I think that's the easiest way to help. And then there's other ways to help in that you actually go get your hands dirty. I mean, I've done, I remember like going and taking, 2 pickup truck full of MREs to homeless veterans in Los Angeles when the encampments were like small cities, But I mean, that give back is infectious, and I remember them, veterans going, "What are you doing?" I'll get them. I'll start emotional if I think about it. But anyway,
but it's it is ultimately your time, right? The one resource that you can never get back.
That's what you're giving.
And I think people understand it, whether they think it specifically or not. I think people intrinsically understand that your resource of time is the one that's the most important.
Right.
You know what I mean? Now, what got you into all this in the first place? The military stuff? Well, let's start with acting. What got you into acting in the first place?
I mean, my mother, when my parents split, remarried, and my stepfather, who came into my life at about 10, was an actor, director. So he was on a show called The Rockford Files, and he played a character named Angel that was like the convict, kind of sidekick to Jim Garner. But he directed, and he would throw me into stuff as a kid and go, "Hey, dude, go run over there and say this," and So I had exposure to it. I didn't really get into it seriously until after college, and and then I just got lucky, man. I mean, I went to college for something else, but the acting took off. And then Private Ryan, for some reason, started this sort of chain of military movies, and I just started getting picked for these things, and and then as a result, like I said, I love training, and I think that's what ultimately what it is. It's like you hold a weapon right, do the little things right, get it right, represent right, and and you guys appreciate it, and the producers appreciate it, and so I've kind of built a career on it.
There's definitely worse things to be typecast as, right? Because there's one, we're not going to stop making shoot 'em up movies,
right?
War
Ever.
or whatever, right?
Yeah.
That's pretty good job security, I guess, if you know how to do it right. Plus, I'm sure it's easier for a casting director just to sign off on you, knowing that you're not going to be a complete dum-dum when you come in, fumbling your weapon around and stuff like that.
One of the things about the channel, like Clayton and I were talking about this on the way over here, is that it's got these amazing battle sequences, but at the end of the day, we're also actors, right? So we bring, or at least try to bring, some humanity to the characters in the story, and show the whatever kind of conflict they're having and resolve they end up with at the end of the film. But the channel actually has a lot of that, in my opinion. Like, I thought our relationship on screen was really fucking cool, and
you could definitely tell that you guys have known each other for years,
forever. And this is what I told the director so initially he had hired me to play an FBI agent, and Klain had the offer for my role, and I was like, hey, this is our chance. Like, let's talk this guy into letting us play the brothers, and that was my selling point. It's like, that was our fourth thing together, and we've known each other for 21 years, and you're not going to be able to find actors with that chemistry,
right? Yeah.
Period. So,
did you? You do play a really good psychopath.
Thanks,
so
man.
Congratulations
Thank
on that. It definitely, there was something familiar about that.
I'm
character.
always slaying people.
Yeah, some people are into it. I mean, it's the military is full of all sorts of different people. Some people are, I guess you have to twist their arm a little bit, or they themselves internally have to twist their arms a little bit to do stuff. Some people just react to what's going on around them. And then there are some people who are gladiators, you know what I mean? They just genuinely enjoy violence, and it's, good for us that they're ethical people that are on our side,
right?
I guess,
right.
But it can break bad sometimes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you feed that demon too much, that hunger never goes away, unfortunately. Now, you guys have known each other for years. How much did you guys ad-lib a lot of the dialogue? Because you fucked with each other quite a bit.
We fuck with each other all the time. We try to turn everything that we do into a comedy.
Yeah.
It's so hard to not. I mean,
so probably steer away from anything too. Don't do like a Holocaust film or anything.
Oh my God,
that, that wouldn't work out at all.
No. So we've known each other 21 years. We did The Great Raid together, which was the World War II film. We did a movie called Spectral together.
Oh, Spectral's great.
That's
was another
great.
James Badgedale.
That's right.
So crossover with that one too.
Yeah, he's a good buddy of ours. And we did a pilot for HBO for Alan Ball, and in this movie.
Okay. Well, that's a lot of experience together.
Yeah.
You could tell it really does come through on screen. I like stuff like that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It's nice to it's nice to see. It's like Ben Affleck and Matt Damon doing a movie together again. You know what I mean. Have you seen what's it called? What's the new one? The Michael Jordan one?
Oh, Air.
Air, yeah.
Air, yeah.
Did you have you seen that yet?
I haven't seen it.
You should watch it. It's pretty fucking funny.
I haven't.
I mean, the characters they both play. I don't know. Ben Affleck's character is a fucking weirdo.
Yeah.
And Matt Damon's character is like a dumpy fat dude.
Yeah.
So it's that part of it is difficult, but you could definitely feel the on-air chemistry.
I just did a movie with during the pandemic with Ben Affleck called The Tinder Bar that George Clooney directed, and it's hilarious because at one point I was like, Clooney was giving me direction, and he and Ben Affleck were behind the monitors, and I was like, I got two Batman staring at me right now, trying to give me direction. It was one of the only times that I've really ever gotten starstruck.
Yeah. Did you try to start shit between them?
No,
like just
I
when
didn't
they're
try.
both standing there, go like, "Hey Ben, you know what? You were my favorite Batman. Sorry, George."
Yeah. No, it was the setup was there. We did. I had this one scene where I beat Ben Affleck up, and we didn't rehearse it. And Clooney was like, "Just get out of the car, come around the car, flick your cigarette, boom, hit him, hook, right, drop him, kick him," and he goes, "Let's do it." And I was like, "We're not going to rehearse it." And he goes, "No, you got it. I was like, "Oh God, don't hit Ben Affleck. Don't hit him. Don't hit him." Because you don't know, right?
Yeah.
You don't know how close he gets. And, anyway.
How was that? How was the reception of that? I haven't seen this movie.
It's a good film. It was based on a book of the same name, and it's a true story about the author's life, basically growing up in bar culture. In Boston, I think, or Long Island, one of the two. But really interesting, good movie. I don't know how well it did, but cool character for me. I play a disc jockey with kind of chain smoking, boozing, shitty father. Fun character to play, but
it kind of sounds like a Bronx Tale almost.
Yeah, a little bit.
Where there's like a surrogate father situation going on.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And this is this guy's real life story, though.
It is. Yeah. The book's amazing.
And what else? What else do we have coming down the pipe?
Oh man, I'm in a season of Bosch Legacy.
Oh, they're bringing that back.
That's good. Season 2.
That's a great show.
So I have that coming out, and in the channel. And I think that's it. Yeah.
And then you've got this other Osiris that's in.
Oh, and Osiris.
It's in pre-production now, technically, I guess.
Yeah, that's coming out. So that we haven't shot it yet, but yeah, that'll be in the pipeline.
And what's now that you've done a lot of stuff, you've been in big stuff, you've been in indie stuff. What keeps you, I guess, sharp and motivated and stuff, and what are your goals moving forward?
Oh my God, I mean, kids.
Yeah,
keep me sharp, motivated. Yeah, moving, trying to move forward,
college and
pay
shit.
for college, all of it. I have no. You know what I really want to do, man, is my son, my oldest, is in film school in New York City.
Is he at NYU?
He's at School of Visual Arts,
okay,
which is
cool,
a really cool art school, and he wants to direct. So my dream, probably from going forward, will be to like do stuff with him, and collaborate with my kid, and he's super talented, and then my little guy wants to get into sports management, so he's looking at the programs at University of Oregon. I don't know where else, Boston.
I don't actually know anything about that. How do you even? Get
I don't know.
I think you just know the right
it.
people, and then.
Yeah,
it kind of works out. Maybe I don't.
Here's
know.
what I know: I'll be getting sideline passes. So
yeah, that's all.
That's what I know.
Yeah, that's an investment in your future.
Yeah.
Who's your sports teams? Who you like?
Oh my God! I was a longtime Cowboys fan. Romo and I had to break up because I couldn't watch them anymore. And then I went to the Broncos, which a lot of my buddies were, and I love the Mannings.
Yeah.
And then Peyton, crumbled. It's been, but buddy, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be very honest with you. I haven't watched a game since Kaepernick took a knee.
Yeah, that's it's going on.
That was too hard for me to digest.
It's going on, and the only other, I guess basketball did it a little bit, but they put the kibosh on that pretty quickly.
Yeah. I was like, you got this is I don't know, not to get into it, but it was that was a tough one for me to swallow. And as soon as everybody started taking knees, I was like, you know what, I know too many guys that can't take knees because they don't have them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fucked up.
You know what I mean?
I think the only sport that's really still pushing it is the WNBA, but nobody watches that shit anyways.
Right.
So,
that's right.
They're not going to lose viewers because there are none. So, looking into the future here, there's a lot of stuff going on politically in America, but I think a lot of people are having trouble telling relevant stories right now without it weaving into some of this. I'm tired of hearing about all the political shit in sports and when I go to the movies, some look, if it's a movie that's great, it doesn't matter what the subject matter is, to be honest. But it does seem like the lowest common denominator stuff right now. Like, oh, let's make a movie about this or that because it's politically divisive. So some people will go watch it. I mean, how do you navigate that stuff? You know, I mean, do you work on? Is there a part of you that wants to write your own material and do your own material?
Yeah, and I do that. I mean, I have, projects that I'm trying to sell and, and that I want to do with buddies and I know enough people, in the business now to get projects going and raise money. So it's not easy. But I do that. And, look, it's like as an actor in Hollywood right now, you have to stay very neutral and let it play out. It's yeah.
There's one that I really want to see that I haven't seen any talk about. It's a prequel to Man on Fire, right? So it's like,
what's it called?
It's not a thing. It doesn't exist. So Man on Fire.
You
not
the
original,
see that, right?
not the original, the Denzel Washington.
Yeah, the
version.
Denzel one. Yeah,
I want to see John Kreese's time at the agency.
Interesting.
And all the shit he does.
Yeah,
like all the fucked up shit.
Interesting.
That would be good. Nobody's ever even talked about. I don't know who owns the IP to that, but that seems like a pretty. They're rebooting everything now.
Yeah.
So why like that? That's one of the. To me, that's one of the best shoot 'em ups ever.
It's a great film.
Yeah. Just the story arc, and obviously everybody that is in it is really good as well.
Yeah.
But do you ever like for source material? There's real stories. There's stuff you just come up with, and there's inspired by. There's novels.
There's so
like
many
that.
stories. I mean, I have, especially in social media, like I'll get hit up by guys that have incredible stories. It's so hard to get a movie made.
Yeah, no
it really is, and it's like, and it's years and years of unless you're George Clooney or unless you're somebody that can just say, hey, I want to do this. I'm not quite that guy yet, but endless stories that inspire, and I'll do more. I'll figure it out.
Well, look. Tell me again about the channel. What is it exactly?
So
what's your elevator pitch?
It's a bank heist film. It's two former Marines that one is doing it for the right reasons, the other is doing it for the wrong reasons, and one has a family, the other is did some time in prison, and they go in and tear this bank up and then end up on the run. But it's a simple story, but it's pretty captivating, and the relationship, like I said, between Clayton and I is really kind of dynamic. So I think it makes for great entertainment. It's available Friday on all the streaming platforms.
Friday the 14th.
Friday the 14th
there's
everywhere.
A theatrical release as well.
And
right?
there is a small theatrical release. Yeah, so it'll be in like major cities. I'm sure L.A., New York, New Orleans, I'm sure got a theater, and you might be able to find it in a theater.
And you guys just did the premiere in New Orleans. What was it, Monday?
Yeah.
How was that?
Great. Yeah, boozy, but no, it was fun.
As they are, yeah.
But and everybody went crazy for it. So
good, man. Well, look, congratulations on all that, and thanks for representing our community well.
Thank you.
Over the years, we really appreciate it, and thanks for giving back as well.
Thank you.
Taking the time to come on shows like this, and all the charity stuff you do. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thank you all for listening. This has been Citizen.